Is ORCISH Bowmasters actually a bad card? One donor says yes. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. And today we are going to be playing a mono black Death Shadow deck list that intentionally does not have ORCISH Bowmasters. So what's up with that? Essentially, Josh posited that the card, despite being very explicitly powerful, isn't exactly what the deck wants to be doing. At its core, a Death Shadow deck list wants to make a very large Death Shadow, or another creature, more on that in a second, and attack with it a couple of times. And you use discard to pave the way so that that creature can go the distance. ORCISH Bowmasters is essentially a hate card, and in a vacuum, it does not actually represent that much damage unless you have one of those dream scenarios where one of your opponents brainstorms. Troll of Khazad-dûm, combined with Reanimate, gives the mono black Death Shadow decklist its secondary creature. So your goal is to put in a fast Troll or Death Shadow, hit your opponent 2-3 times, and have them be dead. That's the thing that you want your deck to do, and ORCISH Bowmasters doesn't actually contribute to that. So let's take a look at Josh's deck list, and let's test this theory that ORCISH Bowmasters doesn't belong here. Now, today's video is sponsored by moxfield.com, as well as Cool Stuff Inc. And remember, if you need some paper magic cards, use promo code ThrabenU at checkout at Cool Stuff Inc. to save 5% on your order. So this is the deck list in all its glory. And with Josh's design here, the idea is to go faster than a traditional Death Shadow deck list. While a blue-black Shadow deck list is not a Dark Ritual deck, this one is. So you can turn 1, Dark Ritual, Swamp Cycle a Troll, Cycle a Street Wraith, Reanimate, and maybe do something else as well. So the idea is to really push Death Shadow harder in the direction of a tempo deck, where you are going to become worse in the long game, as you have multiple 2-for-1s that aren't in your favor, with things like Grief and Dark Ritual costing you a card to power things out sooner. But this deck is going to be very good at hurting itself. We have Street Wraith, we have Reanimate, we have Agadeem's Awakening for 3 life, and we also have the Black Gate for 3 life as well. So really, we are going to turn on that Death Shadow very, very quickly. P.S. also Night's Whisper. Now, to make sure that we're not just totally dead as the game starts going on, Turok Dread Canter is a happy medium. It's an evasive threat in the early game, as it's going to avoid a lot of white removal. Or I shouldn't say evasive, it's a hard to answer threat. And as the game goes on, it can grow, especially if you can kick it as you get to later mana or you have a Dark Ritual to do so. The sideboard here is kind of unexciting. It's a lot of stuff that you might expect from a mono black deck list, although Powder Keg might be one that you have to read. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the matches and see whether or not we feel like we want Bowmasters. Let's battle. All right, taking a quick look here, we do not have the initial mana source that I need to Swamp Cycle, so this one has to be a mulligan. This hand's pretty good. I believe that I'm going to throw back Turok. Sorry, it's just responding to a message. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to throw back Turok, and I believe that I lead on Thoughtseize here, and then attempt turn 2 Troll Reanimate. I feel like I played against this player recently. Sorry, Joe, I don't remember what you're on. The videos blur together. But we'll find out. What are we working with, Joe? Oh, understood. Being able to take my opponent's land here is interesting. But I think I am just going to take the Suvin Drifter here. My opponent is going to be on some Show and Tell variant. I imagine we're going to see Ponder here. I guess they could hold up Brainstorm. Swamp Cycle. And we will attempt the Reanimate on the Troll. My opponent can brainstorm for Force of Will or Daze if they are playing that, which we do see. Are we resolving? Ooh, we're resolving. I am at 12. So Death Shadow is online, although admittedly not very good. Depending on my draw, I might just legit just play out Douthie Voidwalker next turn. We are shocking in. Joe, that's some weird timing. So this timing does not allow you to fetch to clear the Brainstorm afterwards, and it commits the Ponder to a shuffle, which I really don't like. Okay. We've got a couple of different lines here. I'm going to bash in for 6. That's always happening. From there, it's more interesting. I can cast Night's Whisper, and if I hit a Grief, or if I hit a land, it is probably better than my other plays. If I play Douthie Voidwalker, it does not guarantee lethal next turn. I'm still on a 2-turn clock no matter what. So I think I'm going to try to high roll here by playing Night's Whisper. Perfect Dark Ritual timing. Ugh. Alright. I will unfortunately pass turn. Yeah, we had 4 hits on Grief and, I don't know, 16 hits on land or something like that. Ooh, that's very good. Bash in for 6. My opponent goes to 4. I will cast Dark Ritual. I will cast Dark Ritual. I have 6 total mana. I can turn that into 7 total mana by swamp cycling this. I have not made a land drop yet. Play this. Do this. Or no, that's mana neutral. JK. So I'm always kicking this. What is the other thing that I wanted to do? I probably want to Douthie Voidwalker. I think I'd do that after Turok, oddly enough. Because I want Turok to be done around Daze. Alright, it's in play. We could see another Brainstorm in response here to hide important cards. We do not. Oh, it was a show and tell that my opponent got stuck with. Alright, and they are willing to concede after losing that show and tell. GG's. I'm looking to win this match via discard. I have some removal spells that I can board in that do stuff. I'm not sure how excited I am about these cards. The plan is absolutely stick a creature, cast some combination of him, Thoughtseize, kick Turok, and ride it to victory. The creature hitting play is really bad for me. Snuff Out's weird. It's very good versus Vesuvan Drifter, but very bad versus another creature that is put into play. So for example, something like Atraxa isn't going to get hit by it. I think I'm going Snuff Out or these. I can feed the Swarm and Omniscience. Maybe we don't do that. I don't know, maybe Feed the Swarm is just, like, killing me too much of the time that I keep a Snuff Out in that spot. I'm not the biggest Night's Whisper fan here. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to cut it for the other Feed the Swarms. So this opening hand has the Black Gate and Swamp Cycle on turn 1. I can Grief, pitch a Death Shadow to take a first card, and then have him or Douthie Voidwalker on turn 2. That's fine. Reanimate becomes very good for me. Death Shadow will be on quickly. Actually, maybe I pitch Douthie Voidwalker to Grief looking at this hand again. I only deal 3 damage to myself as of right now. Maybe not. Let's see what my draw is. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Hello. Alright. I will pay 3 life. Douthie Voidwalker is now the pitch. So let's Grief, pitching Douthie Voidwalker. Take a card out of my opponent's hand. Ooh, a Sholdred. I think I'm going to take their Emrakul and their Sholdred and call that good. Alright. Emrakul's gone. We're going to do that one first so that that shuffle happens there. Then I will Reanimate, targeting Grief. Take the Shouldered out of my opponent's hand. This leaves them in a pretty rough spot. That's one of the ones that I knew. All right. Now, this turn is much less impressive for me, since I didn't play the Troll on turn 1. But that's okay. We'll Swamp, drop that, and pass, and I'll probably him next turn, rather than increase my clock, because my opponent will have, like, taken... Ooh. So good. Alright. So I will crash in for my 3 with Grief. Opponent goes to 14. I will hymn them playing around Daze. Ancient Tomb, Flooded Strand. I'll pass the turn, and then in their upkeep, I'll Wasteland Underground Sea. I probably don't have to do this in their upkeep, but it's just like good habits to build from things like Stifle. All right, we know one of my opponent's cards is Force of Will. My Death Shadows are kind of stuck in my hand. I don't think that's going to matter. I'm going to have 6 power a turn, and then as soon as I get 1 more point of damage somewhere, I get double Death Shadow. All right, we're in play. Now, I can't get too complacent, right? Like, Show and Tell into Giant Creature is still a thing that can happen. And it will probably beat me at this stage. It does require both of my opponent's unknown cards being Show and Tell plus thing to put in off of Show and Tell. Which looks like it's happening. Oh no, it is a Vesuvan Drifter. That's fine. Okay, yeah, this turn is going to be pretty good. So I will cast a Dark Ritual. I will use 2 of that mana to cast Night's Whisper. That is a Street Wraith. Yes, I will cycle that. What's in my opponent's thing? It's just lands. It's so gross. It's so gross. I will now Death Shadow. Oh, that is Force of Will, pitching Lorien Revealed. I will play another Death Shadow heal here. Force of Will is now in my opponent's exile zone. I could hold up Force of Will, but the only way that I lose here is my opponent having their top card of library be something like an Emrakul that can kill me in 1 hit. I guess there's an argument for not playing the Death Shadow. No, I mean, I guess it's fine, right? If my opponent gets Emrakul, they just 15 me. So, are we dead? It is an Archon of Cruelty, which hits for exactly 9 damage. Yep. That's variance. So now we get another game. The primary plan that I am doing here is working. I'm not going to change things up too much. Like, the ratio of, like, Feed the Swarms versus Snuff Outs and such is up for debate. I think I'm good with what I have. Okay, this hand is going to be very good, even if my Street Wraith draw isn't insane. Okay. So, we're leading on Dark Ritual. I think I am then going for our good friend Dauthi Voidwalker. I do not understand this play. What's the logic? Is this just looking at my hand to see whether or not Dauthi Voidwalker needs to be countered? I will now Thoughtseize my opponent. It's the Palantir. Alright, my opponent's hand is interesting. So I can take the Palantir and just play the Palantir on my turn off Dauthi Voidwalker and use that to improve my hand to help beat the other things that are here. Or I can just, like, take Show and Tell now and hope to find something that deals with Vesuvan Drifter and just start clocking my opponent from turn 1. This is a very awkward hand. I'm going to take the Show and Tell. Also not crazy to take Brainstorm and hope my opponent gets stuck on 3 lands and none of their stuff is castable. That doesn't really feel correct. Nice. I will go ahead and Swamp Cycle. Pick up a Swamp. I will play a swamp. I don't want my opponent to know that I have this wasteland yet. And I'll start crashing in. Opponent's at 15. Opponent's brainstorm's awkward right now. Right? Because, like, this is their land drop, and if they play this, they can't immediately brainstorm. So they're sort of incentivized to fetch and then brainstorm, which could brainstorm lock them, which doesn't immediately mean death, but maybe not my opponent's ideal situation. All right. I think there's a good chance that the Palantir goes away now. I already have 3 points of power per turn in the pressure department, but we'll see. Ooh. Do I pitch cast that to get out of this turn cycle without my opponent doing something broken? Probably. Next turn matters a lot. Like, my opponent getting this or this into play is a huge deal. Let's Grief, pitch Death Shadow, and some portion of the time they have something very big and dumb in their hand that I can just cast with Douthie Voidwalker as well. What are we working with? There is a Force of Will. This is awkward for me. Opponent's basic is also awkward for me. So, a Suvan Drifter is the only thing that can potentially do something next turn unless the top card of my opponent's library is a Brainstorm. So this is something that does something on its own. Show and Tell requires more stuff, so I take the thing that requires something on its own and attack for 3. So this leaves my opponent with a Show and Tell, which I don't like, but they are Brainstorm locked. Is your top card a creature? It is. Oh no, shit, it's Palantir. That's fine. I will... At 16, I'll absolutely take damage. I'm playing Death Shadow. No. Yeah. That goes to exile, by the way. Just throwing it out there. My opponent has Force of Will blue card, unfortunately. So we're going to have to get a little bit creative. We're going to have to think with portals here. So I'm going to cast a Reanimate on Grief. Grief hits play. Grief takes my opponent's Show and Tell. I will sacrifice Douthie Voidwalker. I will now cast a Grizzlebrand, getting around that Force of Will. This is 10 of the 11 points of damage required to kill my opponent next turn. So the Force of Will that is in their hand is no longer good. And this fetch land isn't either. Ooh, actually, I'm just going to wasteland that fetch land. I should have done it in their main phase. Bam. Okay, yep. And I will let them draw the card here. You may draw a card. All right. I will hit my opponent for 10 here. Bring them to 1. I will let my opponent draw a card again with Palantir. I think I am supposed to draw 7 here. Yeah, there's some stuff here. So I'm going to start by pitch casting a Grief, getting rid of a Street Wraith. My goal here is to clear any sort of counterspell and take 1 card from my opponent, and then I will kick Turok to take their remaining cards. Alright, GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and I personally keep all of my deck lists for every format on this site. I love that I can go and sort them by types and tags if I need to. There's a lot of different viewing options. It can give you some math about your mana symbol, your curve, and you can even playtest and do sample opening hands with it. Check this site out if you haven't before. It's awesome. All right, I've kept my opening hand here. It's, a no counterspell from my opponent is good to know. So, we're going to go ahead and fetch here. Grab a swamp. And essentially play our version of a Delver of Secrets. Note that, like, we're already in Death Shadow territory, like, very quickly. Oh no. Oh yes. Oh yes. This is fine. That's a great land as well. I will crash in for my 3 points of damage. Oh, sure. Yeah, you may absolutely ping me. I accept. I was just trying to buy some time here. Is all fine. So yeah, I'll drop a Death Shadow here, and then wasteland my opponent's Urza Saga. I am going to be off to a relatively powerful start. I'm going to be attacking for a lot of damage, and if my opponent... Oh, this is Painter. Understood. A lot of Reanimate. Alright. Blackgate. A life. I'm at 8. I'm attacking for 8. Send them. My opponent will gain 5 life. I don't even think I need to reanimate Bowmasters. I think the increased clock of Doughty Voidwalker matters more than Bowmasters does. Actually, is that true? Because Bowmasters is worth 1 point of damage now, 2 points of damage next turn, and a Death Shadow pump. But my opponent might play an X1 that I might want to ping. Yeah, so let's do this. I am swinging for 11 theoretical points of damage. No Painter. Cool. Yeah. So we're going to attempt to reanimate an Orcish Bowmaster. Ping my opponent. Send in all these creatures. They go to 3. I'll drop an additional Death Shadow as well. And that's it for my opponent. So, Null Rod is great. I will probably play Sudden Edict as removal. I'll think about Feed the Swarm, and I'll think about Powder Keg as well. Note that the paper version of this deck has Chaos Defiler, which is not on Magic Online yet. I'm scared of the combo portion of this deck. Like, a lot. Street Wraiths are pretty expendable. Gonna give me Null Rods and Sudden Edicts. I think I'm gonna go Night's Whisper out for Powder Keg. I get a little bit worse at lowering my life total if I do this. I will have boarded out 6 cards that lower my life total. I think I will do that, but I just need to be cognizant of that change. Alright, Agadeem's Awakening. Dark Ritual. I don't have a way to get any creature into the graveyard here for the purposes of Reanimate, and I am a mana short of kicking Turok. I am going to go ahead and mulligan that one. This is a very disruptive hand. And it's a hand where I can play Hymn to Turok and Dark Ritual on a turn, and then you can all argue in the comments about whether you're supposed to Thoughtseize first or Hymn to Turok first. It also may be a hand where I just throw back the Dark Ritual and do neither of those things. Because I can't do anything super fast right now anyway. Alright. Leyline's in play. I'll have to reanimate one of my opponent's fun toys. I am going to start by just getting a basic land, in case my opponent were to Blood Moon me or Magus of the Moon me or something. Goblin Engineer and Painter. I will take Goblin Engineer and pass the turn. I have Sudden Edict to immediately take out the Painter. Ooh, that's a very good draw. And there is the Painter. So, this turn I will be casting Hymn to Turok. I'll pay some life. We are just going to take both of those copies of Badlands so that my opponent maybe doesn't get Urza Saga tokens. The Urza Saga tokens are the scariest thing around right now, because I have Painter combo covered most of the time here. Note that if my opponent top decks a land and makes a construct on their own turn, they play around Sudden Edict. But it doesn't look like they did that. Do I need to Dark Ritual for any reason? Not really. Let's just play this tapped. I guess I'll even past my opponent's turn and let them see if they want to get rid of Lotus Petal. Nope. So then I will Sudden Edict them and get rid of their Painter. I could have greeted this a little harder with timing, and maybe my opponent doesn't end up with a 1/1 construct. Lotus Petal is Not really what I expected. Alright. Dark Ritual. Him to Turok. Target you. Got rid of a lightning bolt. Makes sense. I will now reanimate a Goblin Engineer. Let's search my library for an artifact card. I'll use that ability. Oh yeah, I have those. I don't really want to draw Powder Keg right now, do I? I just want to draw things that attack. I am fine. I guess it wipes the construct token. Alright. Done. Then I'll drop a shadow. It's a small shadow. It'll get bigger. And we just have to hope that it gets bigger at a rate larger than my opponent's construct token gets larger. That is a Goblin Engineer from my opponent. Putting an Ensnaring Bridge in graveyard, which is pretty bad. I did not draw a way to deal with that. Can I beat Bridge? Like, is that a thing that I can do? Yes. Powder Keg is required. Send him. Nice. Got all 3 points of damage. I will Swamp Cycle the Troll. Get that swamp. Play Swamp and pass. Opponent can't block with the construct there because then they lose their only artifact for Goblin Engineer. Oh, yes, I will take that damage. Oh, that is a welder. I'm getting another turn worth of attacks, which is unexpected. I don't think this attack makes sense this time. Alright, opponent's at 14. I'm going to pass the turn. Note that some portion of the time, my opponent will get cards stuck in hand, and I will be able to get attacks in through Ensnaring Bridge. I am going to thin the deck here. I have a couple of cards that are very, very, very important to draw here. Let's help to find them. That's not one of them. Alright. Ensnaring Bridge is in. I'm going to cast this unkicked. And now we just have to hope that things get stuck in my opponent's hand. Unfortunately, they've drawn, like after Goblin Engineer, it was 1-drop, 1-drop, and then Urza Saga. That's not bad. Like, that's in play. We just kind of hope that some stuff gets stuck in my opponent's hand now, and that the Urza Saga passes. Nope. I mean, it doesn't produce mana for Urza Saga, but that's also not something that gets stuck in my opponent's hand. That doesn't do anything. Sure. Notably, my graveyard is off, so my opponent can't use Goblin Welder to weld out my Null Rod. Yep. Alright, 1 card in hand. Goblin Engineer can attack, although that attack isn't good. Not looking for Verdant Catacombs. Okay, sure. Yep. Everything is blue now. So my opponent wants to work towards taking Null Rod out of play with a blast. Sure. Go ahead and take another swamp out of the deck here. Got one more after this. Note, Snuff Out is definitely not great with multiple Goblin Welders in play. Right, there is a Phyrexian Dragon Engine, which is a little bit of a scary thing for my opponent to do, actually, right? Because that draws them multiple cards, which might get stuck in their hand. All right, at this point, I think I'm going to jump around to relevant moments. You know what? We're going to cast Powder Keg. That's pretty good. That's the relevant moment. So I do have to figure out what I'm doing about the Goblin Welders. My opponent has Goblin Welder and Engineer. Fuck. No. No. No! This is just going to be like me waiting forever and then losing on like turn 25. Alright. My opponent gets a draw 3. I guess my opponent can do this multiple times a turn cycle. Yeah. Alright, there's the Pyroblast on the Null Rod. I am comfortable conceding there. Like, I have a Powder Keg on 0. That's not going to do it. My opponent grindstones me. Alright, I got it. Okay, so I now know that my opponent is playing Leylines. I could get rid of Reanimate, but like Grief Reanimate, Troll Reanimate is still one of the best possible things that I can do in the matchup, so I don't know that I want to mess around with taking those out. I don't think I want to play Leylines of my own. I still think I'm trying to be this early game deck. I maybe want Feed the Swarm against Urza's Saga. I didn't board that in the first time around. I could replace Snuff Out with that, rationalizing that if my opponent is going to put Painter on black some portion of the time that this spell gets blanked. I could also get rid of Turox. They get, like, they don't square up in combat super well. I'm going to do that. Yeah, this is fine. This is Swamp, Dark Ritual, Douthie, Thoughtseize in that order. Unless I see my opponent's... Well, no. No, I'm always going to do it this way. Oh, fuck, that hand's good. Wow, that hand's good. My opponent essentially has 2 Grindstones and 2 Painters. I'm going to take a Painter? I could take a Grindstone, put my own Grindstone into play, and kill them in response to killing me, but that seems too cute. Let's take a Painter. And we have to kind of hope that my opponent doesn't put Painter on black here. And gets much worse if they do. Ooh, a second Petal. Hand's fast as fuck. F. Yeah, that is Painter and Grindstone. I know my opponent has a 3rd mana. I can Powder Keg, take out something. What went here? My own Painter. That doesn't do what I want. I'm dead if my opponent goes for it. I just have to hope they do not go for it. We're just gonna send them and pass. Hold up some mana. My opponent will almost certainly attempt to mill me out during my upkeep, at which point I will be dead. I do not regret having Snuff Out in my deck still, just like let the record show. I think it's important to have answers to the Goblin Welders and friends. Yeah. You got me. GG's. Alright, what am I looking at? Agadeem's Awakening into Thoughtseize. This one really needs a second land to operate, and I'm on the play. I think I can do better. How much self-damage do I do? How much is too much? Can I cycle my Street Wraith in response to my mulligan decision? I think I pitch Agadeem's Awakening here. Alternatively, I could just not Grief on turn 1. Keep 3 lands. I don't have anything to do with 3 lands. I already have something I can hit with Reanimate. I am going to throw back the Grief. I don't think it quite works here. Alright, here we go. A Death Shadow. Alright, we're now down to do some damage to myself. Pay some life. Thoughtseize you. We're hoping not to be playing against Death and Taxes. A Lavinia, wow. Force of Will's very good. Swords to Plowshares is very good as well. I'm going to take Swords. I don't want to be playing against my opponent's deck. Like, it is an exaggeration to say that I've already lost this match. But, like, my opponent is playing Baleful Strix and Swords to Plowshares, and those are some absolutely primo creatures that I do not want to... spells that I don't want to see while playing this deck. Like, Baleful Strix 2-for-1s me, and is so good versus Death Shadow. And my opponent is playing White Removal, which is like the bane for a deck like this one. I'm going to start on Douthie Voidwalker here rather than just immediately throwing out Death Shadow. And see if I can bait out the Force of Will with this spell. I fail. Maybe a game where I have to remember what the text on this is. Choose a player with the most life or tied for the most life. Target creature can't be blocked by creatures that player controls this turn. Got it. All right, there is a Lavinia. Damn. Okay. I want to play this. I will pay the life. I will attempt this. Like a great potential Force of Will target, although if my opponent just has mana for Strix. Like, we could just see that happen just as easily. Strix doesn't die to Snuff Out. F's in chat all around. The reality chip? Excuse me? I'm just gonna fucking die to Lavinia. I'm gonna attack with my Douthie Voidwalker. Lavinia is just gonna crack me for 2 a couple of times. Baleful Strix will get involved. I'm just gonna get outraced. I'm so screwed, YouTube. It begins. So, how do I win? Oh, yeah. Turok's pretty legit. Can't really play it this turn, right? Like, if I play it this turn, my opponent just eats 2 cards from graveyard, has 5 damage. Well, I guess Turok means that Lion Sash doesn't get through. JK. Alright. So we'll kick him. That gets rid of that Baleful Strix. I'm not interested in casting at this time. But I might end up doing later. Alright, sure. What are you? You are currently a 3-2. Sorry, these numbers are hard to read. And that's a Magic Online thing. That's not a my interface thing. I do have to be aware that some portion of the time my opponent can just attack with enough lethal creatures at one time that not even Turok can save me. Troll. My plan, just 2-turn my opponent here. Like, hardcast Snuff Out on Lion Sash. Crash in for 6. Die if my opponent's 1 unknown card is Orcish Bowmasters. That seems like the plan. Do I Swamp Cycle? Is that a thing that I want to do? Probably. This game's not getting to the point where I hardcast a troll. Flashing Haven Mind Sensor, get wrecked, nerd! Alright, hit Lion Sash. Yeah. We are very much not casting Reanimate on a troll. Or a Street Wraith. Send in for 6. Opponent's at 5. I fear for my life. Yeah. Oh my god, we won game 1. That means we potentially have to get bodied twice in a row. Okay. I will probably be looking at some number of these cards. I think Discard is going to be less good versus my opponent. They're going to be playing a bunch of value-oriented stuff like Baleful Strix. I think I'm not super interested in him. I think I still keep Grief for Reanimate purposes. Do I take Thoughtseize since Swords to do I keep Thoughtseize since Swords to Plowshares is such a pain in the ass against me though? I don't think I want to play Night's Whisper. Like, I want to win the game before most of my opponent's card advantage comes online. I think that involves punching their creatures out of the way. At the cost of my life total. Maybe go down 1 Street Wraith or 1 Feed the Swarm. Let's keep the Street Wraiths. This can reanimate a Street Wraith and then play a Turok and have a Sudden Edict. This is fine. I am not going to immediately cycle Street Wraith. Bowmasters isn't live on turn 1. So let's cycle. Ooh. Alright. Blackgate. Go to 15. Reanimate. Target Street Wraith. Notably, this is not a swamp. Snuff Out is not currently free. Just kind of be aware of that. Non-basic. Yeah. Fantastic. We are okay with this exchange. And we'll see what sort of crazy nonsense my opponent can do on their turn. Oh-ho! So much for my immediate Wasteland plan. I don't really want to Sudden Edict that Stoneforge unless my opponent already has Kaldra in their hand. Playing Turok would be exceptionally greedy. What if I Wasteland my opponent? Feels a little weird, but one of the ways that I could win this game is just my opponent's resources getting stuck in their hand. And I think Wasteland into Wasteland accomplishes that a decent portion of the time. Fuck yeah. So we will run that play back. I'll wasteland my opponent in their upkeep. Nice. And then I can start answering their stuff. I don't even need to answer the Stoneforge immediately. What am I doing this turn? We're just playing the Turok this turn. We'll drop that. At any point, I can snuff out Stoneforge Mystic. I'm just not going to do it yet. I'm going to give my opponent a chance to, like, potentially discard a card if they miss a land drop. They did not. Phyrexian, so they probably have Plague Engineer. Got it. So, let's cycle Street Wraith. Do I want to troll? No. Don't want to commit that mana. In case I draw another Wasteland. Did not. Now, I'll commit this. Grab a swamp. Play a swamp. I will Thoughtseize. It increases my clock with Turok. Okay. Brainstorm? Probably Brainstorm. Grow Turok. My creature's pro-white. I'll attack for 3. And then I know about Force of Negations, so I'll use my removal on my opponent's turn at this point. All right. No fun things for my opponent here. We'll just keep making land drops. And I can play Sudden Edicts whenever my opponent plays a creature, which cannot be countered by Force of Negation. This is a little brutal for my opponent. God, the discard to hand size to grow Turok. Disgusting. Bash on in. Opponent's at 8. I'll drop a Dalthy Voidwalker. And I have 2 Sudden Edicts backing up 2 different attackers. A fetch land is turned off after this next turn. Alright, there's a Solitude. So my opponent can remove Dalthy Voidwalker. My opponent did that in a way so that Solitude has a void counter. They did not have to do that. This is a cool trick. So I will cast a Turok with Kicker. I will keep the Turok that already has counters on it. My opponent will discard 2 cards, which then grows the Turok, allowing me to bash in for more points of damage. Opponent's at 2. Alright, I said I didn't want to play against this match, but I took that chance on the Wasteland and was incredibly rewarded with my opponent not really playing relevant spells ever again. Okay, this hand doesn't actually do anything. Looks like it does. My first play is turn 2 Night's Whisper, and I don't think I want to go that slow with this deck list. Like, I would accept that on a lower card count, but not here. This hand's great. So it'll be something like, I think I want a secondary threat. I put Night's Whisper back in the deck for later. And I think I grief pitching Thoughtseize and then intend on reanimating it. I could Thoughtseize first to like take 1 card this turn, grief 2 cards next turn, but I think I just want to play body into body. Let's grief pitch Thoughtseize. We care more about Comet or Fable. Probably Fable. Fable comes down earlier. Yeah. Let's start taking Fable. I guess I don't need to think about it that hard because I just like take the other one, right? I reanimate Grief. I take Comet. My opponent will be staring down 6 power in play as of turn 2. Their hand currently does nothing. They'll Chalice to shut off future Reanimates, but that's okay with me. I don't need to fetch here to reduce my life total. I think the thinning is probably marginal in this game. This game is about these 2 bodies right here. It's just fully, can my opponent top deck something that beats these 2? A Fury, for example, would be disgusting. Like, Fury taking out both of these just wins the game for my opponent. But they don't have a lot of time. So my opponent is representing 3 points of damage to themselves in play, which kind of makes it this turn or nothing. That's not literally true, but it's pretty close to true. It's possible that my opponent was supposed to play their Savannah last turn instead of their Wooded Foothills to have a land in play that does not represent self-damage, but I'm not entirely sure what their mana base is going to look like, so it's possible that I am missing something. My guess is that this is just like 12 fucking initiative creatures and Comet. Alright. Like, it feels like you gotta be playing something like the Undermountain Adventurer to want to be in green. Batterskull Smashing. Understood. That keeps my opponent alive. But it shuts off Ancient Tomb. As they drop to 2 here. The red for Shatterskull Smashing, by the way, is a reason to have played the game the way that they did. Minskinboo. Ooh. That's incredible. That is 2 bodies to block Grief. That is exactly what my opponent needed. So my attack in is no good. Now we're in a top deck war. I think I'm going to hold the Troll. I think there's a decent amount of times where I end up casting that spell this game. Opponent's drawn fire off the top, like Minskinboo, 4th Aerlingas. That's fine. It's quite good. Goes off some of my removal spells. Oh wow, I'm punished for not trolling. I can't get a Doughty Voidwalker into play this turn. Alright. Yeah. I will Swamp Cycle. Pick up a Swamp. Play the Swamp. And pass. Very rare to want to play Agadeem's Awakening as the spell side. Alright. That is not a spell. Looks suspiciously like a spell, but it's not. I'm out of swamps. Cast that on Doughty Voidwalker. That represents death next turn, which is cool. Alright, that ended up being much closer than I expected it would be. So, I probably want to be able to remove initiative creatures. I don't really have things that address Planeswalkers. Sheoldred's Edict would be cool. But that's not here. When my opponent is on the play, I probably don't want to play Thoughtseize. Like, I want to go down on 1-drops in respect of Chalice, so I'll probably do something that looks something like this. Maybe go down 1 Street Wraith for another removal spell. I could play Null Rod. I don't really think that's super reasonable on the draw. Deal 3 damage to myself, cast Dark Ritual and Doughty Voidwalker and Swamp Cycle. This hand is perfectly reasonable if my opponent does not have Chalice of the Void on 1. If they have Chalice of the Void on 1, I kind of scoop this one up and move on to the next game. I'm going to keep it. Like, it is just very aggressive, which is, I think, is where I want to be versus this opponent. Smashing under there, and Fable. This is fine. Guess I could have considered Powder Keg more heavily than I did. Alright, Black Gate. A 3 life. Dark Ritual. Doughty Voidwalker. Swamp Cycle Troll. Grab a Swamp. Call it a turn. I'll get attacked for 2, putting me to 15. I'll shock myself for 3, putting myself to 12. Death Shadow starts to come online. I should look at what's in here now. Not good things is the answer. So my opponent now goes up to 4 mana, so they can play, you know, a Comet or an initiative creature or whatever. Double Ancient Tomb. Caves of Chaos Adventurer. Shatterskull Smashing. Ooh. Like that. I don't even do that now, right? I don't even do that now. Because I can just snuff out at instant speed because the life is paid. So this gives my opponent a chance to, like, cast a Fury or something that would deal damage to these things. And I get to blanket. Not the cozy kind that you see on this channel so frequently. And I think I'm snuffing out Reflection of Kiki-Jiki anyway instead of the Goblin Shaman token. Oh, that's scary. Alright. If I pay 4 life, I go to 8. Am I like Schrodinger's dead, where I'm dead if I cast Snuff Out and I'm dead if I don't? So there's 7 incoming creatures. So if I block 2, I take 10. Do I have to snuff out an attacking creature? If I snuff out an attacking creature, I go to 8. I block 2 of those. There's 4. Fuck. To stay alive on blocks, I have to block 2 of these, meaning both Death Shadows die. Damn it. Alright. So maybe I should Powder Keg to play around 4th Aerlingas now that I know about that. Thoughtseize also becomes more reasonable on the play. I guess Turok's very slow for this matchup. Turok can become a couple of Powder Kegs. What do I have him in? Oh, it was Chalice is the answer. I guess when I'm on the play, like, the Thoughtseizes are good again. Could go down like a Feed the Swarm. This hand does not exactly do anything. Not fast enough for this matchup anyway. I think I would rather go to 5 than keep this. Alright. Turn 1. Swamp Thoughtseize. Is 5. Turn 2. Cycle Troll. Reanimate Troll. Play Death Shadow the following turn. This is a very good 5-card hand. I'm never keeping Marsh Flats. I'm going to do 9 points of damage to myself. I think I keep the Black Gate, just in case Reanimate doesn't resolve for some reason. Alright. Yeah. Thoughtseize target you. Ooh. Lotus Petal is the best thing here very easily. Minsc & Boo is very scary later on if my opponent gets colored mana though. But I think I'm going to try to go under Minsc & Boo. There's a very good chance of that happening. But it's a pretty high variance situation that I found myself in. Okay, that's turn 3 Minsc & Boo. It's not what I want to see. Grab a swamp. Play the swamp. Reanimate the troll. I will have a low life total when that Minsc & Boo hits. Yep. Oh. Hello. Alright. Thoughtseize target. Fuck! God damn it. Take Minsc & Boo. Alright. Cast Death Shadow. It's a 6/6 attack. Minsc & Boo is real annoying though. That was savage. So I'm gonna need something like a removal spell. Or something that can lower my own life total. Well, actually the Minsc & Boo attack would do that, right? How much is this to activate? 2? Yeah. Fable. Okay. That's great. Right, I just take my hit for 12 here. Sudden Edict is always getting that creature, it's not getting Minsc & Boo or whatever. Alright. And then I have lethal with Troll next turn, unless Comet hits multiple pluses in a row or something. I guess my opponent can loot into like a Solitude. Containment Priest, sure. So Black Gate wouldn't work anymore if my opponent played a creature, right? Yeah, because they're not tied for the most life. Folks, this is working. What does this hand do? Turn 1 Thoughtseize. Turn 2 Turok. Yeah. Fuck it. Let's ball. I'm really enjoying playing this deck, by the way. And as wild as it is to say, I have not once thought about wanting ORCISH Bowmasters this league. Thoughtseize. So I need to take Force of Will here so that I can guaranteed resolve my Turok next turn. That's the plan. So we are probably playing in like a pseudo mirror match. Like it kind of looks like my opponent is playing a shadow deck of their own. All right. So I know that my opponent has Wasteland as their only colored source right now. However, this is a bit of a problem. The way for Wasteland to convert itself into colored mana sources, which is Very sad. Well, I'm just going to kick Turok this turn. Dark Ritual. All right. Don't fuck me, Murktide Regent. All right. What do we hit? We hit their Wasteland and Grief. So what I am afraid of is my opponent naturally having drawn a blue source and just getting to play a large Murktide Regent that will be better than my Turok. Nice, did not happen. They drew another Wasteland. So I'll attack their Underground Sea to keep Murktide Regent from happening. Fine, cycling this. ORCISH Bowmasters is not active. All right. Bash in for 4. Opponent goes to 15. End of combat. We'll take out Underground Sea, and then they'll cycle this to pick up a new Underground Sea. Yep. Oh, fuck. That's a discard. I should have done that prior to damage. That is an objective mistake on my end. My first time playing with Turok, I think, after this was printed. All right. I've made my land drop, so I'm good. Yeah, objective mistake. I missed a point of damage. That singular point is unlikely to matter. It's like, Turok is probably just here all game. I'm already putting my opponent on a 3-turn clock. It's a little awkward for me to cycle Troll. My opponent's deck probably plays Reanimate. So I think I am not going to. Well, I guess I should infer that they do not have Reanimate, because they would have just reanimated their Grief to put something on the board, or reanimated a Street Wraith 3/4, 5/4. Maybe not. Let's not do the Troll though. Okay. I'll just send on in. Opponent's at 10. Ooh, that's not normal. All right, do I cycle Troll here? I don't think so. I think just by the same logic, I don't want to give my opponent a very good reanimation target. That's good. All right. Cycle Street Wraith. 13 exactly. Not really where I want to be. I think I need the land drop or some double spell opportunities that might arise next turn, or even triple spell opportunities. So I will cycle the Troll here. My opponent on Urza Saga. Like what's the draw? How does it fit in with the rest? Need to make my opponent discard a card. I guess I can attack with Turok, trade with a construct token, and then play double Death's Shadow. I like it. I think that's better than using the Black Gate actively. Send them. Just also like commits my opponent's mana. Ooh, they are down to 8. Black Gate. Pay the life. Cast Death's Shadow. In play. Cast second Death's Shadow. Also in play. My opponent has a Wasteland that can answer my Black Gate. It may or may not end up being relevant. A little hard to say right now. I don't know how extensive of an Urza Saga package my opponent is going to have. For floating mana. I assume my opponent's situation is very bad if they are taking this long on this decision. Although, they might just be looking at their deck list going, how do I get out of this? They have Lotus Petal. Like, are you Tempo Doomsday? Is that what's happening here? Tempo Doomsday with Urza Saga? Alright, that is a 7/7 Murktide Regent. I did not lose the Black Gate. My opponent has more life, so it's not currently on. I will deploy another one of these. And pass the turn. Situation... scary. Actively scary. A blue land into a second Murktide Regent could potentially kill me. Otherwise, I'm hoping to put my opponent in a situation where a Death's Shadow can be lethal in a single hit. Grief. I can attack in and deal 5 to my opponent. 5 is not lethal, unfortunately. So we'll just cast the spell I can cast. And this is perfectly reasonable on this board. Oh, wow. Multiple Bowmasters. Sure. mean, I'll take one. So my opponent did not respond to that trigger. That's kind of a big deal. So against Bowmasters, like, my attacks aren't great. It just represents 2 more bodies. Well, opponent not fetching. Okay. I get wastelanded off the gate now. Is fair. If I attack with everything, they play Bowmasters. They have 4 bodies that can block. I only push 2 points of damage. In process, I will lose 1 copy of Death's Shadow. How many things does my opponent have to block? Just 3? My opponent has to block 3 things. Or die. My opponent will have 4 bodies. So they can't do this in a way that keeps a lethal amount of damage. So I think I shove. What if 1 damage goes to my face? Putting me to 9 instead. Then I'm okay, unless another Bowmaster happens, and there's already 1 in graveyard. Okay, I think this is my turn. Send them. Math is for blockers. Okay, they're going to go with the Turok instead to take out an additional body. Wow, my opponent is leaving themselves fully dead to something like Cycle Street Wraith. I'm a little surprised. All right, they are at 2. And they will need to top deck a new creature, or they are dead. I know their 1 card in hand is Force of Will. They're fetching to thin. I guess it could also be a removal spell that kills a Death Shadow, right? Like, that also works. I'm shoving. Like, this is the point of the game where I just call. All right, and we're good. So my opponent has ORCISH Bowmasters, and I don't, but they're drawing cards, and I'm not. So that's a thing. I can bring in up to this many removal spells, and I can also play Leyline of the Void if I want. My opponent has Urza Saga, which I'm still a little weirded out about. I think my plan involves playing largely to the board and going down on discard. I probably want to keep most or all of my Street Wraiths this time because they just represent a swamp walking creature, which is super relevant here. Actually, Turok is not amazing versus ORCISH Bowmasters. My opponent slipped up and did not kill my Turok initially with ORCISH Bowmasters when they had the chance to, which is the only reason that it stuck around for longer there. Play 2 Leylines. Be better at stopping Murktide Regent from getting into play. I think I'll just keep 2 Thoughtseizes instead. Yep. Well, Dark Ritual, Troll Cycle, Reanimate, or something of approximately that ilk. Might not even use the Dark Ritual until turn 2. We'll see how my draw changes my evaluation of my hand. I could also just, like, swamp Dark Ritual, Douthy, Troll Cycle. But it's worse against an opposing Reanimate, which I didn't see, but, you know, opponent has Grief, so, you know. Alright. Swamp. Dark Ritual. It appears that my opponent has a counterspell. This is a long pause. A daze. Sure. That's going to slow me down, but it's not a problem. I'm still playing fully functional Magic, and my opponent is not currently ahead on board. That's a lot of Feed the Swarm. Holy shit. Roll Cycle. Swamp. Reanimate. Target Troll. In play. Hell yeah. And again, this is going to dodge some removal spells like Snuff Out, so this is a big deal. Destroy target creature or enchantment. Or enchantment. Nice. That allows me to do that around days even. I'll go ahead and do my attack first. 6 incoming damage. Bonus at 13. Play Sinkhole. Mana floated successfully. Yes, you may play ORCISH Bowmasters. I accept this damage. My troll will race it. And we have removal spells. I still wouldn't be happy for a Murktide Regent to get into play because, ow. Alright, cool. That means there's not another body coming this way immediately. My Death Shadows are on if I draw them. There's another land drop. Currency Converter. Okay. Disgusting. Yeah. Alright. 6 damage in with Troll. Opponent drops to 7. Wasteland Underground Sea. Second main phase, we will drop a Douthie Voidwalker. But I have an extra creature that can attack next turn. And that's it. That is a 4-1 finish. And you know what? I think we've proven it. I think we've just proven that ORCISH Bowmaster sucks. Okay, in all seriousness, how do we feel about this deck? My answer is obviously, like, positive about this deck. Now, does ORCISH Bowmasters actually suck? No, it's one of the best cards in the format right now. However, I think Josh's logic is correct, that in a shell that wants to try to go under what a lot of the format is doing, ORCISH Bowmasters might not be the card that you actually want. It is not nearly as aggressive as the other things that we have going on in this deck list. And, like, having both Grief and Street Wraith back in the deck to make your Reanimates even better, so that, like, anytime you have a Reanimate and one of these 12 cards instead of one of these 8 cards, they're powerful. Like, that means a lot. And Turok definitely did some work throughout this league. We did the whole, like, Turok, kick another Turok trick. Like, this deck was good. Ratios felt right. Like, 3 Wasteland I was comfortable with. Like, the Wastelands did very good things. The sideboard numbers seemed good. This one gets a huge thumbs up to me. Like, Josh, you put together a mean deck here, and kudos to you for that. Folks, I hope you enjoyed. If you end up needing to pick up the Black Gate or any other cards from this deck in paper, check out Cool Stuff Inc. Use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. See ya!